Thank you, everybody, for being so patient and coming to this. My name is George Worrell, and I work in the fashion industry. And I'm originally from Atlantic City, New Jersey. Only child. Everything seemed to be really, really good. But I also understood at an early age that there was something different about how I thought, what I chose to do. I wasn't like everybody else. And during the time that I was growing up, that wasn't so cool. You had to fit in. So going through high school and then into college, I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't play that game that my parents and my friends and everybody wanted me to play. So I had my first drink, and I enjoyed it. Now, my parents didn't drink. Nobody around me drank, didn't smoke. My parents have been married 55 years. Like I said, I'm an only child. Everything seemed really good. But after I had that first drink, everything was just like, wow. All the outside stuff, it shielded me from. Then I started smoking weed. And it would just, everything just seemed good. But I couldn't focus. Flunked out of college, started running. Running meaning going to Philadelphia. I was in Connecticut, going different places, running from me. But I didn't know it. And during those times, it was like the late 80s, there was a whole lot of stuff going on. HIV, we didn't know what it was. My friends started dying. We would go to the hospitals. They wouldn't tell you what it was. They would have masks. They were rude. They were nasty. The people that I was around, we were all the same. Do you understand? Like, to have somebody that understands exactly what you're going through, but the outside didn't. The church was telling us we were going to hell. Our parents were saying we're not doing well. All of these things. So all I would want to do was just stay high. When coke, and they start forming it to crack, started here to here, immediately. Started robbing, taking checks, running, all of this kind of stuff that I knew nothing about, but I couldn't help it. When they talk about that mind thing, where you know it's the wrong thing, but you have to have it. I don't know if anybody feels like that, but I've been through that. And I remember going up to New York, because I was living in Philly at the time. And I went over a friend's house, and she had her bag on the kitchen table, and she had $1,500 in it. And I took it. And I left, and I stopped in Philly, drinking the whole time, using the whole time, and ended up staying in Philly for like maybe 2 days, and ended up in Washington. Now, granted, I left New York with $1,500. In 3 days, I got to Washington, I had $2. And I met a guy in Philly, and I called him, and I said, you know what, I think I may have a problem, because I had $1,500, and now all I have is $5. And he said, if you think there is a problem, then there probably is a problem. And there was a guy that he had gotten clean with, because I knew nothing about the program, knew nothing about AA, NA, none of that kind of stuff. And he had a friend that was a block away from the phone booth that I was at. And I ended up going there, and he called his sponsor, and they took one look at me and knew that I needed some help. Now, went into rehab. I think I stayed clean about 6 months, went to a recovery house, and then they asked me, I stayed there about 3 months, and they had a meeting one Sunday, and they said, we're going to have to ask you to leave. Why? Why are you going to have to ask me to leave? I didn't do anything. You haven't caught me using. We didn't catch you using, but your behavior constitutes that you are using. So we can't tolerate your behavior, so you're going to have to leave. Left. I was happy because I was using. Went someplace, I'm like, oh, I'm free, went and got some vodka, just, the party was on. But I remember walking down 8th Street one day in the depths, like I had absolutely nothing. And I'm thin now, I was at least 50 pounds thinner then. And I put some clothes on. I'm like, oh, I'm going to take myself out to dinner, da-da-da-da. And I'm walking up 8th Street. And there was a mirror on the side. And I looked at myself for the first time. And I didn't see the Ralph Lauren. I didn't see the Gucci shoes. What I saw was someone who I didn't recognize. And I went back home. And I think I continued to use for maybe about 2 more weeks, and I went to a meeting. And that was August 14th, 1995. And I've not found it necessary to use since then. Now, I wanted to qualify myself to tell you about why I'm here and why I think what I have to say about fashion and people who are like me, re-entering the workforce or want to start their own business, how fashion plays a huge part. Now, the trials and error when I started in 1995, I wasn't a person who liked to work for someone else. But I got a job at Legal Seafoods as a host. Ended up turning that into maitre d'. My mind started opening. I started doing different things. Like, oh, this room right here can be used as a party room. Let's start doing some fundraisers on the roof. My journey started. I started having people who were like-minded thinking. Because it's at the end of the day, it's not so much about what you put on, it's about the inside. So I developed this thing called the 3 phases of style, which means inner. Inner is the things that I've gone through and the things that I continue to go through. Because just because I'm clean doesn't mean that my problems go away. It means that I'm dealing with them differently. I'm not leaving from a job because somebody pissed me off or cursing somebody out or fighting like I used to. When I first got that job at Legal Seafoods, the only thing that kept me there was that I could afford to get a haircut. I didn't have to ask my mother or my father or anybody else for some haircut money. And that's what kept me there for that first year, that I could go get a haircut and spend my own money. And it's those little things. Then I figured out, I don't like working for someone else. And then I'm at this job, and I called a friend. I said, I've been here like 5 years, and it's my contacts of why the business has grown 38%. It's like, So he said to me, if you are doing for someone else, why don't you do the same for yourself? That was a light bulb. Meaning, some people may want to go to a job and work until they are time to retire, or some people may want to start their own business. And that's what I wanted to do, but I didn't know it. It was part of the journey. So I experimented. I went out, I started my own business. I didn't have a business plan. I had a friend who could make cards. We called it Events by Worrell because that's what I'd been doing. I called up some people in my Rolodex because I kept everybody's card when they came in. Called 2 clients that I formerly had. They gave me 2 gigs, and I haven't looked back. But it wasn't the easiest thing to do. But what I found out was if I could tap in to what it was about me and know me, that all the other stuff I could deal with because it's rough. And that's what I tell people, or I tell myself, that just because I got clean doesn't mean that all the problems are going to go away. It means that I'm dealing with it differently. So that inner about how I feel about myself, that I should know me better than anybody else. When you're going to a store and somebody's trying to sell you something, you should know what looks good on you. You should know how you want it. Not somebody constantly telling you. You should have an idea. Secondly, I talked about the outer, which is how I grew up, which was my grandmothers and my grandfather, my grandmothers, they never wore makeup, their skin looked well, all of those things, like something that's a common denominator. Like, you can't just get a suit and not get a haircut or have your dreads properly done or your teeth. That's the first thing that I did when I got clean, was when I was able to get insurance, I went to the dentist, I went to get a haircut, I went to the dermatologist because I have eczema. All of these things. Because when you're going on interviews and you're meeting people, the first thing that they see is you. The second thing is, what do you know? The first thing is how you look. And you should be departmental. And when I say departmental, you should have different sides to you. You have to play the game to be in the game. You have to look like it. Like when I went to Legal Seafoods for that job, I had to look like the clients. I don't know how I knew that, but I knew it. And I went to a place that gave away clothes because I didn't have any money. And I picked these really nice suits, and I was nervous as hell. I had never done it before. I was nervous. I'd never held a job before. I'd never held a job more than 3 months. And this was the first job that I ever had. I knew nothing about it. I knew nothing about dress. I didn't know anything about the people, but I knew that I had to keep this job. I knew that I had to surround myself around people who told me that, yes, I can do it, and not, no, I can't. It's an inside thing. It really is. And it's about the journey for me. I wanted to make sure that the fashion world that I'm in, sitting on the red carpet or going to a fashion show or planning an event, meets the need of somebody like me who was re-entering society. Because it wasn't so important about what I did or who I'd seen and who I'd robbed, all that kind of stuff. It didn't matter. What it meant was that I was starting a new journey, and the best way to start it was at my best. How could I do this with the least minimum of failure? Now, on the failure piece, well, not even so much failure, is those knocks. The knocks that came when I would go for a client and they would say no, or something would happen, would be a shot in the gut. How do I handle that? Do I go get a drink? Do I go smoke some weed? Do I constantly complain, or do I take that punch and learn from it? Because there have been a lot of knocks in recovery and in the business world. One of the reasons I'm in New York is because I was in a political situation, and when the political situation turned, and they were just my clients, I had nothing to do with it. The whole tide turned, where business was, where I was doing $175,000 a year, went from that to zilch, nothing. I had a choice. Do I complain? Do I use? What do I do? I moved. I sold all of my stuff. I looked for an apartment. I found an apartment in Harlem to sublet in a month. I asked my parents, I asked some friends, I was able to get the money to get a truck to move just my clothes up here, because I did, just my bed frame, because it was still part of the journey and still part of the dream. I don't understand when people say that they don't dream. I've been dreaming every day for 51 years, and that the dream is about implementing it. The dream and the journey go hand in hand. There's got to be something that you wanted to do. Like when I was little, I thought, I want to be an actor. You ain't gonna be no actor. Men don't think you ain't no, So out of my mind, told me I couldn't do it. But here we are some 18 years later, and we're being pitched for a reality show. And not just something to talk about, how do you look in something or how do you do this. I want something of substance where people are going to be inspired. People are going to think about their next move. They're going to think about, I looked at my family. My uncles made shoes from hand. So I had to figure out what is it that I do good. I love parties. I do that well. I love food. My grandmother taught me how to cook so I could cater. And then I love fashion, and I'm very good at it. So those are the three things that I knew would bring me money. Your passions will take care of you. Your dreams will take care of you if you work at them enough. And have the people around you to say yes and support you. If you are making shoes and you can't draw, then you partner with someone who can and start a partnership and make it happen. There's got to be something that's unique about you. When somebody says that people are all the same, I don't believe that. We could all fry chicken in here together, but each one of us, the chicken, is going to taste different. My grandmother taught me how to fry chicken, and I make really good food. But my chicken does not taste like my grandmother's. It'll never will. It never will. That faith of getting rid of the fear, of saying, this is something that I want to do. From that dream, think about that dream. That's one of the reasons I'm here. I never thought about being a speaker. I never thought about fashion. I never thought about anything, but I followed my journey. And my journey is here. So there's generic things that I could tell you about fashion, that the men should have a dark suit or a gray suit, or the right kind of conservative shoes. The women should be covered up. It shouldn't, your breast should be showing when you go on a interview. Those are generic things. You can read that. I can send that to you. But the most important piece is really you. It's you deciding what it is that you want to do. If you want to travel, I go to speak to young people, and a lot of them love to rap. And I suggest that if you're rapping, do your lyrics in French. Something that's going to take you someplace else. It can take you to Canada, it can take you to Africa, it can take you to Paris. You're in New York City where everything happened, the Harlem Renaissance, Duke Ellington. My building is on the block of the Savoy Ballroom. And I'm amazed by that. And I'm thinking that if Josephine Baker and Duke Ellington and all of these wonderful people who were very talented could do this in the 20s to say, I'm getting out of here, I'm going to Europe, I'm doing this. Bricktops, who owned, this fabulous restaurant in Paris. If she can do that, why can't I? Why? Why can't I? So at the end of the day, for me, each and every day, as we all know, it is one day at a time. But I just want to leave with you to be encouraged, to dream. If there's anything that I can do, I'm going to leave my email, to email me. If you're going on interviews, we're going to try to develop something called the Dress for Success Boutique, where you can go and get clothes. Have some of the people from the Vogue magazine maybe come and talk about just meshing both of those worlds together. Because it really is important about how you feel, how you look. And at the end of the day, those three things together, you're not going to fail. You definitely are not going to fail. That's enough of the speech part, but is there anyone that has any questions for me? That, my journey, your journey, about going on interviews, thoughts? Anybody? Anybody? What stages are you at now? What is your next move? Do you have plans? Oh, sorry. Okay.
My next plan is... What's your name? My name is Harold Polanco.
Hey.
My first plan is to graduate this program. Then after that, I'm going to Berkeley College to do web design.
Wow.
To get a bachelor's degree. And then in the future, I'm trying to get like a good job or something. And if God gives me like the chance, I'm trying to get my own web design business.
What's funny you said Berkeley, because my friend Lenore is here with me, and she's walked on this journey with me a good amount of this time. And what has inspired me from what you just said and what she said, she was an attorney making a large amount of money, and she went out on faith and decided to start Muse Arts Agency, is where we met. And you can have one figure in your mind, or you can have one thing that you say you want to do, and it can always change. I didn't want to be like my parents that worked the federal government for 38 years. Like some people, that's fine, but for me, I wanted some type of change or just have experiences. But yet, what you said is totally possible. How about you, sir?
Well, me, I'm like a self-maintenance man. I like painting. I like creating designs for people in the household. I have my own logo. I'm trying to get clothes now. Everything's a process, so I take one day at a time, take it step by step, and I got to deal with what I got to deal with. out the box right now. You know, there's a lot of things on the table, so you can't just rush to everything. It's gonna take your time. And, you know, get on my nerve, I'm taking a walk on it. I'm taking a long ass walk. They get it all together. Just take a long walk, sit down somewhere, and just think it all out again, and just see where I can put things together. And then we come to it. We come.
I agree. Thank you. So, how about you, sir?
My name is Emmanuel.
Hey, man.
I'm somebody that's really into fashion myself, but you know, I lost all my stuff. You know what I mean? I'm in a situation where I'm starting from scratch again. You mentioned places where you can get like free stuff and things like that. And, you give me some more information about that, or is
Yeah,
that
I'm gonna leave my email, and if you want to email me, or I can talk to Mr. Neer. Is that his last name, Neer? And find out how we can put this together and get everyone some clothes. Because even me moving here, it's like Loehmann's, Marshall's, all of these stores, which are billion-dollar businesses. They get their clothes from like Bergdorf's and Saks, and it used to be that they would get those clothes maybe 6 months afterwards. Now, they're so solvent, like Marshalls can write a check for $2 million and get it directly from the designer. Like they can go to Dolce & Gabbana and write that check and get it right now instead of waiting those months. So partnering with them, they're always looking for nonprofits and all of these things to get together so that those clothes can get out to people who can't go out and spend $800 or $700 and get it, because it really is important. I think it's underestimated about how important it is how you look. People are like, oh no, it's feeling. It's not. I'm going to be really honest with you. When you walk into that room, there's a big difference in walking in like, hey, what's up? I'm here in my interview, or walking in, holding the door. It's like, hi, my name is George Worrell. I'm here for this interview. I think I'm a few minutes late. May I have a seat? There's protocol. I'm saying that I have to be departmental about myself because there's many sides to me, but I have to play the game to get in the game. So if I have to look a certain way to get this job that I want, that I know that I'm good at, I'm doing it. Because I was able to play that. This is a great example. I had no experience in being a host. I knew about being a waiter, but I didn't know anything about being a host. But I also knew that I had to look good. So I went there in that suit that I got from this consignment store that this man would let me come. I was supposed to come just once a month, but he would let me come more than that. And I presented myself. I was a little nervous, but I presented myself like I did know. Went in, got the job. Once I was not so nervous and really got a hang of the job, my mind was like, oh, this can, suggestions. It was about being an addition, being an additive, instead of constantly, I need a day off, somebody's getting on my nerves, if you do this one more time, it was more about, hey, have you thought about that back room being the private dining room? Those whole kinds of things. Meanwhile, I'm thinking how I can do this myself without all of the money going to someplace else. So how many people do you think want to own their own business? And then I guess the rest would just like to have a job. And what kind of business do you want?
No, I always thought about a good business would be, where money is really at, is a laundromat. A laundromat is money. Everybody wants his clothes. And you can make money on that. I mean, it's a good process. You just have to get the money for it. But then again, I was going to school, get my GED, but I switched programs. So now I'm trying to get me, first I want to, get back to that, get my GED, because you need a GED when you get out, you need that. So I want to get that done. But everything is a process. Everything takes time.
Let me leave you with this, because my part of this is done, is that if you follow your passions, one, you need to know what they are.
Yeah.
If you follow your passion, if it's fashion, if it's website design, if it's a laundromat, if it's something that you would do for free, like I would speak for free. I would tell people about fashion for free. event planning is something that he'll tell you, the filmmaker. I'm like, oh, is that angle going to be good? I mean, I'm constantly like that. I know what I'm going to wear next week. You have to identify what your passions are and what you are good at. You can have jobs that are going to do money for you and get you money until you get there, but you really should be thinking about what my passion is. Because if you really find out what your passion is, the journey, the money, and the opportunity will all come in. I guarantee you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.